Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views. Vice President Sara Duterte is now in the Netherlands to support her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. The Vice President arrived just hours after former President Duterte was taken to Scheveningen prison in The Hague. The palace confirmed that the Office of the President granted Vice President Sara Duterte travel authority, allowing her to visit Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands from March 11 to April 30. Before this, the former president reassured his supporters not to worry in a video message. Duterte added that he will continue to serve the Philippines no matter what happens.
Yan. So, headline ngayon ng banner yan yung naging first ever appearance ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte since the arrest. No? Official na siya yung mismo nagsasalita, addressing the public. No? And to be exact with his words, ang sinabi niya doon talaga ay, wait, let me check. Ang sinabi niya doon ay talagang he will, ang tawag dito, sabi niya, I will face, 'di ba? Kasi ako naman yung ako naman yung responsible here. For all of the whatever happened in the past, ako na yung nag-front sa ating law enforcement pati sa military. Sinabi ko na I will protect you and ako ang mananagot sa lahat. This will be a long legal proceeding, but I say to you, I will continue to serve the country, so be it kung ganoon ang destiny ko. Salamat. So, yan yung kanyang naging...
Well, at least sa bandang dulo, ganyan yung statement niya. Kasi yung initial one was very combative pa siya. Up to the time they brought him to the airplane. Sa mga videos si Kitty Duterte, they're showing President Duterte telling General Torre, you'll have to kill me, you'll have to kill me. Up to the time na nakatayo na siya, nadadalhin sa airplane. Nakaganon sa video sila lahat. You'll have to kill me if you'll take me. Tapos nagmamakaawa na parang sabi ni General Torre, Mr. President, and you are a lawyer and you are a former president, I'm sure you hold the law, something to that regard, in the highest regard. So in the end, doon nakita ni President Duterte medyo nagkakagulo na, pati yung wife, si Kitty, were all already, in the heat of the moment, sumama na si President Duterte to diffuse all the tension.
Hope we can show that video here, But for now?
Yeah, let's talk to political strategist Maluti Kia about the possible implications of former President Duterte's arrest. Ma'am, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to your listeners, and thank you for the invitation.
Yes, ma'am. First off, of course, ang dami nangyari these last few days, but we'd like to hear your take on what happened or what are your reactions to the developments on Duterte's arrest?
Well, basically, the issues I want to raise is the fact that the procedural requirement for affecting the arrest were not followed. So, upon entry to the airplane, they already accosted him, but at that time there were no warrant of arrest. You see, you have to consider the facts that initially they were saying there was already a warrant of arrest. Then they showed to the former president the one they received on the cell phone. And basically si Presidente ay prosecutor yan. So he was asking for the warrant of arrest. That's one. Secondly, what are you charging me for? And third, anong korte ang naglabas niyang supposedly warrant of arrest?
Yes.
Tapos, alam mo, pag ikaw ay nag-a-arrest ng tao at hindi kompleto ang iyong dokumento, medyo questioning ka.
Yes.
Tapos, biglang all of a sudden, dinala sa Villamor.
Yes.
So kung ikaw ay ordinaryong tao, inakos ka sa eroplano at sinabing ikaw ay may warrant of arrest, syempre kailangan mong tingnan yon, kailangan mo ang lawyer mo, kailangan bigyan ka ng rights mo, 'di ba? Hindi yung ilalagay mo siya sa Villamor. Ano ba ang Villamor? Ang Villamor may kapasidad na ilipad siya. At ganun nga ang nangyari.
So do you really believe that this was unlawful arrest of what transpired the other day?
I call it illegal detention and kidnapping.
Yes.
because there were no documentary evidence to show. So if we will piece together ano nangyari, pagpasok sa eroplano, etc. at sa Villamor at ang presser ng Pangulo, di ba, ang sinabi ng Pangulo, may red notice. At he is cooperating with the Interpol. Ano ba talaga ang tunay na storya?
Yes.
Di ba, iba yung ICC at iba yung Interpol. Pero yung presser niya, klarado sinabi niya, nag-cooperate kami sa Interpol, being a member of the Interpol, at meron tayong NCB dito sa Pilipinas. Pero ang tanong, at ang very detailed doon sa sinabi niya, and we are doing this so that we can get Filipino fugitives. So ano yon? Ginawang kasangkalan ang dating Pangulo para makuha yung mga fugitives na yon. Sino yung mga fugitives na yon na willing mong isurrender ang sovereignty mo para lang makuha yung mga yon.
Okay.
So, lalong nagbukas pa ng mas maraming issues tungkol dun sa nangyaring aresto.
Yes, ma'am. There are two schools of thought, of course, from both sides. May kanya-kanya silang interpretation. One interpretation says na since it is a request for extradition, dapat hinarap muna si former President Duterte sa isang local court to determine kung lawful daw yung notice na gagaling sa Interpol. May isang school of thought na hindi po ito extradition but rather a surrendering and assistance for Interpol. So ano po ang take nyo dito, ma'am?
Alam mo, kahit na dun sa dalawang versyon, ang importante, gumagana ba ang korte natin? Nakikita natin the past few days, di ba? Meron yang sa PhilHealth, sa Supreme Court, gumagana. So bakit mo sinusurrender ang kampangyarihan ng bansa mo para sa isang, whether that is Interpol o whether that is ICC, makikita mo talaga may problema dun sa hindi pagsunod sa batayan na ano ba dapat.
Yes, I'd like to get your reaction. Kasi sabi ni Senator Trillanes, it's not really a question kung gumagana ang court, but rather kung willing and able po ang isang government to prosecute certain people. In this case daw, the Marcos administration is unwilling and unable to send President Duterte to file a case against him. Kaya ICC had to intervene. So ano po reaction nyo dyan?
Alam mo, mahirap magkomento sa isang dating senador na involved every step of the way. Ang akin lamang, wag natin i-surrender yung atin. Dahil pag sinabi mong hindi namin mapapailan ka ng kaso, may problema. Ang dali mo naman mag-file ng kaso. Bakit ang mga Marcoses, may mga kaso naka-prenda sa Sandigan Bayan, sa Ombudsman? Matagal, minsan nadi-dismiss, pero yun ang court system natin. So mag-file kayo ng kaso kay Presidente Duterte. At alam mo, ang isa pang nakakatawa dyan, hindi naman sa pinagtatawanan ko, 43 allegedly ang nag-complain sa ICC. Bakit hindi kayong mag-file dito sa atin? Tingnan muna natin at saka nyo dalhin sa ICC. Ang problema, naging political persecution yung labas. Nanghihinayang ako dahil, may namatay, yung 43 nga, pero ginawa niyong kasangkalan para sa mainit na kasi yung sitwasyon So hindi mo masasabi na ginawa lang namin ito dahil dun sa mga namatay. Pwede mo naman, campaign season. Una, campaign season. Pangalawa, siya ang chairman ng PDP. So paano mo maaalis na walang political persecution yan?
Ma'am, taking off from what you have mentioned, political, ano po bang magiging epekto nitong arrest na to dito sa magiging campaign ng PDP laban?
Well, alam mo, itong campaign ng PDP laban nagkaroon ng boost. Dati napakahirap pag-usapan ng slate voting. Hindi naman tayo slate voting at gusto nating namimili tayo.
Yeah.
Pero ngayon, nagkaroon ng boost ang PDP laban. Alam naman natin na kulang sa lahat ng aspeto ang PDP laban compared sa alyansa. Pero ngayon, ang mga tao, nagugulat ako kasi spontaneous yung reaction eh. Organic yung reaction. Kaya ako, I just monitor what is happening every night. This morning, may maagang mga nagkumikilos. So, dalawang bagay yan. Merong laban ang administrasyon sa international through itong nangyari at may laban ang administrasyon dito sa magiging protest vote ng mga botante natin pagdating ng Mayo. May isa na nga kandidato na nag-call na wag na natin munang ituloy ito. Sinabi ni candidate Norberto Gonzales, sa ganitong kaguluhan, paano ang tao magdidesisyon?
Yes.
And I think, we should take note of those things.
Yes.
Kasi hindi ka lang naman after sa boto. After ka rin na maayos yung halalan.
Yes. Ma'am, I have taking off from that, you were talking about, of course, the elections. President Duterte's numbers, we were talking about unofficial surveys as of the moment based sa social media engagement, no, sa mga metrics. Sumalabas na lumalamang po si President Duterte in terms of preference sa Davao City mayoralty race. Now, what happens po if and when if he does win and he is not able physically to govern as a mayor, ano po mangyayari?
By operation of the local government code, the next in rank will assume. So it will be, and if Baste Duterte wins, Baste Duterte will perform the functions of the mayor.
Okay, and on that note also about yung elections, no, sinasabi po nila what happened here has solidified Duterte's hold on the South. It's evident po in the pocket rallies we've had in different areas. Now, do you see that this election will possibly end up being some sort of a north and south thing between Luzon and the Mindanao region? Kasi medyo mas divisive ngayon because of this arrest eh.
Yeah, oo, alam mo, Angelo, malaki ang Luzon. Ang Luzon is 56% of the total registered voters. Ang Mindanao is just 24%. Pero makikita mo, in the last 2 nights, it's Mindanao that is raising the ante. Sa Luzon may mga pockets, di ba? Sa NCR meron sa Quezon Avenue at saka sa Welcome. Pero hindi pa natin nakikita yung ganong bugso ng tao sa NCR. So, no, it will not be a north and south thing. But definitely, what is very particular in the dates is that the former president will celebrate his 80th birthday on March 28th.
That's right.
So those things are very, very, need to be watched because people are mad. People are angry for what happened.
Ma'am, there are different opinions po of how these people or our people will view Duterte's legacy. But with the recent development po, sa tingin niyo po ba how will the people influence po or this event? How will we remember? How history remembers his time in office?
Angela, alam mo, si Duterte, si Presidente Duterte, defined na yung legacy niya eh. Nung bumaba siya, pinakamataas na approval and trust rating. Tahimik na siya, nag-retire na, etc. Diba? Pero pinipilit na tumungtong sa entablado. Sa tingin ko, nagkaroon ng miscalibration ang administrasyon. Oo, naalis mo ang isang Duterte physically sa Pilipinas. Wala siya ng influence kung yun ang kanilang gusto. Pero makikita mo, ang daming Duterte na nagtumayo. Maraming mga kasamahan niya ang tumayo. Maraming nagko-continue. Ako'y nagulat sa reaksyon ng Filipino community sa The Hague. Ako ay continually nagugulat sa mga reaksyon ng Filipino overseas.
Aha.
So yung dati pinagtatawanan natin, ano ba yan, sa bawat kanto o sa bawat corner ng mundo may Pilipino.
Yes.
Siguro ito yung kagandahan na pag merong nangyari, ang Pilipino na andon.
Yes.
Nagulat ako kaninang umaga, nakareceive ako ng tawag sa mga kaklase ko sa Amerika. They're in responsible positions today in the administration, and they were asking, "Hey, Malu, who is this guy? What is happening?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So siyempre nakwento ko, sabi nila, but that is a failure of the rule of law. So sabi ko, well, he is already in the jurisdiction of the ICC. Alam mo, ang kailangan lang tingnan dyan, yung rules kasi ng ICC, kailangan ipresenta saan ka bang korte locally na convict o na napakitaan ng complaint.
Yes.
Nasunod ba ito? 'Di ba, ang daming procedural na dadaanan bago pa siya mabigyan ng complaint, no? So ang ine-expect ko, siguro makita ng ICC, there's supposed to be a court vested and very strong on human rights. They will of course look at yung rights mo ba violated?
Yeah.
And apparently this is the state that violated his rights.
Yes,
For a
ma'am.
former president, alam mo, just last point, no, Angela, we should stop doing these things to former presidents. Kung may kaso ka, kasuhan mo. Huwag inuwendo. 'Di ba? Bakit napakahirap maging presidente sa bansa natin? 6 na taon mong ibibigay ang the best of your professional career. Nabigay niya yung the best, pero binabawian siya ng Estado. Siguro dapat tumigil na tayo doon. Si Presidente Aquino, hindi niya binawian. Sinabi niya, nangyari yan, sige, let's go. Pero makikita mo, bakit tayo parating tumitingin pabalik?
Yes.
At, di ba, instead of looking at the future and moving forward, tuloy-tuloy lang, dapat siguro tingnan natin ano ba yung pagkakamali natin as a bansa na parating tumitingin at sinisingil ang naglingkod ng 6 na taon para sa bansa.
Parang every other president, ma'am, nagkakaroon ng kaso except kay Pinoy because...
diba?
Yeah.
Oh.
Pero,
So, Angelo, sinong tatakbo?
wala nang gusto
niyan?
tumakbo
Ang
ata
tatakbo
pag ganyan,
yung
ma'am.
mga, diba?
Yeah.
Precisely.
Pero ma'am, I'd like to ask naman about the victims of the EJK. Parang kasi nawawala sa narrative sa kwento ang mga victims, nasasapawan sila ng kwentong politika on both sides. Marami nang sabi, instead of unahin sana yung persecution on President Duterte, sana nagtayo muna ng commission daw si PBBM to look into the cases against this individual, kahit individually po, not as a group, yung mga iba-ibang victims ng EJK. What do you think should have been done to ensure that the right justice po will be given to the victims? When I say right po, yung kung sino po pa may kasalanan, siya po talaga mananagot.
Alam mo, Diego, tama yung iyong sinasabi, no? Dapat unang-una, ilan ba talaga ang datos? May nabasa ako, 30,000 ang pinatay. Ay, sandali lang, paano umabot ng 30,000? May isa, nag-50,000. Ang pagkakaalam ko, parang nasa 3,700. No? Pero, kailangan, bawat isang namatay, kailangan may folder, tingnan. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na directly responsible yung pinuno. Pwedeng operational eh. Lahat na nangyari operational. So, dapat managot ang mga pulis. 'Di ba? So, kailangan yan maayos dahil kailangan nating sarhan na yung storyang yan dun sa namatay. Okay? At dun sa mga biktima ng karumal-dumal na mga drug-crazed or influenced individuals. Yun yung other narrative eh. Kung buong pamilya mo pinatay dahil may nakapasok, kung ang lola ginahasa, kung ang bata na 9 years old ginahasa ng isang drug-crazed or drug user. Alam mo, ang dapat, alam nyo yon, dapat maging fair. Sa bawat kwento, dalawa ang bahagi. Kailangan tingnan yun pareho. At yung sinasabi mong sana nagkaroon ng commission o kahit man lang directive from the Office of the President na gusto kong makita ang folders nitong mga namatay. Gusto kong lagyan mo ng muka. Diba? Lagyan mo ng muka at lagyan mo ng accountability kung sino dapat maging accountable. Pero at the same time, tingnan mo rin yung mga nabiktima ng mga drug craze or drug influence individuals na kumamit ng krimen. Kasi yun makakatulong sa crime index at saka the way we manage our statistics and data on crime.
Ms. Malu, yung thoughts po ninyo on the call for people power, tingin niyo po ba posible yon, most especially kung ang Mindanao-centric ang tinatawag po dito at hindi daw po Manila, Metro Manila? Will it be that effective?
Alam mo kasi NCR-centric tayo eh. Yung dalawang experience natin sa EDSA, ang tingin ng lente nasa NCR kasi seat of government. Hindi ko alam kung yan ang magiging sagot dahil tanging kasaysayan lamang ang makakapag-husga niyan. Hindi ko rin alam kung meron sa NCR na tatayo para dito sa usapin na ito. So, kung yun nga ang lokohan, kami dito, ready na kami. Isa-isa nagsasabi, no? Hindi ko masasagot yan tanong na yan kasi tanging taong bayan lamang ang maghuhusga kung kailan.
Let me, in a similar question to Angela's, no, ma'am, definitely we all know that si President Bongbong Marcos still enjoys a very high approval rating. But do you think what has happened now will be the start, if possible, if not a fast decline, but maybe a slow decline of his numbers?
Diego, I will call it a fast decline.
Okay. So you think this election will definitely reflect that?
Yes.
Alright, I want to circle back po doon sa Ms. Malu, doon sa sinabi niyo po na dapat tigilan na po na gawin ito sa mga presidente, and even sabi niyo nga po hindi ginawa ni President Rodrigo Duterte ito kay Pangulong Noynoy Aquino at that time. But didn't he do this naman po, hindi nga lang po presidente, kay Senator Laila de Lima na parang binalikan daw po dahil iniimbestigahan yung tungkol sa allegedly Davao Death Squad sa Davao?
Yung alam mo, Angela, yung naratibo ng Davao Death Squad, naratibo ng kampanya yan eh. Nagsimula yan ng 2011. 2010 yung eleksyon, 2011, bumaba sila, nagtingin sila sa Davao, etc. etc. Siguro ang konteksto doon, ano ba ang Davao? Noong naging mayor si Duterte, tahimik ba siya? Maayos ba siya? Hindi ba ang Davao dati, Wild Wild West? So, kailangan mong gampanan at ayusin kasi ang number one na issue ng mga tao, peace and order. Kung may peace and order ka, may negosyante papasok. Kung may peace and order ka, ayos ang buhay mo, makaka-decide ka sa paraan ng buhay mo. So, yung getting back at Secretary Laila de Lima, ang ginawa nila, nag-file ng case. Diba? Hindi yun persecution kasi nag-file ng case at umikot sa korte. At ang korte nag-decide. Hindi naman siya nag-appeal nung desisyon. Diba? The court decided. So, yun yung tamang paraan. Mag-file ka sa kaso. Oo, mahirap para kay Secretary de Lima at nakain yung oras niya sa preso. Pero yun ang ating rule of law. Mag-file ka ng kaso, lagyan mo ng evidence kung talaga may evidence, and the court will rule. So I guess yung masalimuot kasi yung kay Secretary Laila de Lima kasi may kulay rin ng politika. Yung unang pagbaba nila sa Davao Death Squad, that was a political act that needed to be made That's why it became a narrative in 2016. Di ba? Napunan niyo yung 2016.
Yeah.
Ginamit yung mga bata para sa ads. So, na ganon, drug. So, alam mo, pag pinasukan ng politika, mahirap.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong oras and hopefully we can have you also as well here on our studio. But for the meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, political strategist, Malute Kia. Now, meanwhile, an ICC prosecutor acknowledges that international law is often seen as weak, but asserts that former President Rodrigo Duterte's arrest proves otherwise. Gretchen Ho has the story.
Supporters of former President Rodrigo Duterte chanted his name upon his arrival at the Scheveningen prison in The Hague. This is where he will be detained while facing trial for crimes against humanity. The plane carrying former President Rodrigo Duterte landed at the Rotterdam The Hague airport before midnight on Wednesday. In a statement, the International Criminal Court said medical assistance was made available at the airport for Duterte as part of standard procedures when a suspect arrives. ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan described Duterte's arrest as an important moment for international law.
Well, the arrest of the former president of the Philippines, Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, is an important moment. The office has been investigating the situation of the Philippines for some time in relation to the so-called war on drugs. The judges have issued that warrant and it's been executed. And in issuing the warrant, the judges have found reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Duterte has committed the crime of murder as the founder, as the head of the so-called Davao death squad, as the mayor of Davao City, and then later as the president of the Philippines between 2011 and 2019.
Khan acknowledged criticism that international law is often seen as weak, and said this arrest proves otherwise.
And the fact that it's been executed is important to victims. It means a lot, I think, to victims. That's the feedback we've already received. And many say that international law is not as strong as we want, and I agree with that. But as I also repeatedly emphasize, international law is not as weak as some may think. When we come together, when we work, when we build partnerships, the rule of law can prevail, warrants can be executed.
Meanwhile, an analyst noted that this could be the first case in the ICC dealing with a situation that is not from a sort of war or election-related violence.
This is the first case, I think, that is going to deal with a situation that is not from sort of war or election-related violence. This is basically about extrajudicial killings within the so-called drug war. So I think it's also in that sense special. And of course, it's the first case that relates to Asia that is leading to a trial. So in many ways, it's really a first.
Attorney Gilbert Andres, a lawyer representing victims of drug-related killings in the Philippines, called Duterte's arrest the first step in the long way to justice.
Actually, our clients, the victim survivors, they're very thankful to God because they say this is really an answered prayer. They did not really expect that justice can still be served to a powerful man such as Rodrigo Duterte. So they're very thankful.
In the coming days, Duterte is expected to appear before an ICC judge for an initial appearance.
Well, sinasabi nila, international justice is not weak, but the process of holding accountable is weak. Kaya lang naging successful sila ang pinupuntirya nila kasi dito. Oh, look at with this, we got President Duterte. But you have to remember because nag-cooperate si President Bongbong Marcos, who was the enemy in politics of President Rodrigo Duterte. Ang question was, kung hindi nag-away daw ang unit team, would the PBBM have agreed to Interpol coming in?
Yeah.
Yun ang
and with all
magiging
of these
question.
things that are happening right now, yung paano siya kinuha, how is he going to be when he's in The Hague, etc. Sinasabi nila, more importantly, tingnan din natin yung aspeto nung why was he there? Diba? Of course, yun nga, dun sa interview ng lawyer ng one of the victims, this is a step towards justice for them.
Yes.
No? So, and we saw all over social media yung mga pictures of allegedly victims of this drug war.
Yeah, and before we go, sabi nga nila, he may not, if ang school of thought, hindi naman siya guilty, well, at the end of the day, meron accountability pa rin as the head of the nation. Bakit na mayagpag ang isang flawed operation kung hindi daw siya directly guilty?
Yeah.
So there's that school of thought. But we have so much to talk about.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Former President Duterte is now under the custody of the International Criminal Court in The Hague. His plane landed at the Rotterdam airport in the Netherlands on Wednesday evening. In a video message taken before his landing, Duterte told his supporters not to worry.
Sinasabi ko naman sa mga pulis, military na trabaho kayo at ako ang managot. So ito na nga, for all of the whatever happened in the past, ako na yung nag-front sa ating law enforcement at military. Sinabi ko na I will protect you and ako ang managot sa lahat.
The former president added that he will continue to serve the Philippines no matter what happens.
This will be a long legal proceedings. But I say to you, I will continue to serve my country at so be it. Kung ganun ang destiny ko.
Now that former President Rodrigo Duterte is in The Hague, what happens next? To discuss this, we're joined by International Criminal Court Assistant to Counsel Attorney Cristina Conti. Attorney, thank you for joining us.
Hey,
Hi,
attorney.
good morning.
Yes, Attorney.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Attorney. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
All right.
happy to be here.
Okay, Attorney, now that the former president has arrived in The Hague, we heard that I think you said that possibly next week ihaharap siya sa judges ng ICC to verify his identity. Is this correct?
Well, I would say so, yes. So now that it's been surrendered to the court, the process of the court is, first, there should be an initial appearance before the court between 2 days up to 4 days after he has been admitted or surrendered to the court.
Okay.
This, of course, depends on the availability of his counsel, on his own request, and other logistical considerations. But generally, the time frame is 48 to 96 hours
Okay.
initial appearance. This is the opportunity when he could first raise questions or issues as to the rights violations during his arrest, as to mistake in identity, which I don't think so, and as to the process of arrest. If there were any violations of protocol, of police guidelines, and so forth. That is an opportunity also to ask. Well, I wouldn't want to volunteer, but for the suspect, it is an opportunity to ask for interim release if proper.
Yun. So you mentioned
So-
interim release. This is the temporary liberty, Attorney, yung pinag-uusapan?
Yes po.
Ah,
This is the concept of being out on bail that we know in the Philippines. Sorry, I will just backtrack a little bit. So what I imagine, what he has already been processed through, so yung parang booking, the way it was described to us is when a suspect is brought before the court, he is, of course, searched. This is a body search. just to check if there is anything first medically problematic or could be a medical issue. Also, if he has brought anything of that will allow him to escape. So something of that sort. And then he will be given documents. These documents would first pertain to the charges against him as to the rules of the detention facility, and he will be furnished a copy of list of lawyers who can appear before the court and who can assist him during initial appearance.
Okay.
After initial appearance...
Go ahead.
After initial appearance, a few months, well, it depends again on the time frame and what his response would be, but it is envisioned that within a few months after the initial appearance, there would be confirmation of charges.
Okay.
And this is somewhat equivalent to what we call both the initial appearance and confirmation of charges. It's what we call arraignment in the Philippines.
Okay. Attorney, before I turn it over to Angelo, I'd just like to ask you, you mentioned this is the time also that he can question yung legality ng kanyang arrest, but who will speak po on behalf of the Philippine government or the Philippine National Police? Will it be the Interpol representatives at the scene?
Well, I wouldn't dare imagine what the Philippine government should do, but at the minimum, because these are exceptional circumstances, the arresting and the custodial state is no longer a member of the ICC.
Yes.
They would have had, responsibilities under Article 59 of the Rome Statute, presenting him for a local court.
Okay.
So iba pa sana. Dapat may nauna na yung inarrest siya.
Yeah.
So this would be an exceptional circumstance that, nandyan ka na, so paano nang mangyayari? I'm pretty sure that the ICC will find a way for the appearance of someone. Someone who can explain what happened during the arrest.
Okay.
Then po ba sa side ng prosecution, kapag po sila ay mag-present na nga po ng evidence at that point in that legal process, mga ilang araw po yung aantayin na para po dun sa desisyon sa pre-trial judges na may merit itong kaso, tuloy na natin to sa trial, or dismiss to, walang merit yung kaso?
Yan pong ganyan na pagpapasya ng substantial processes, yan yung sa confirmation of charges. So later pa yon. Sa confirmation of charges, medyo ayokong bigyan ng time frame, pero ang general rule is about 120 days. Or ilan ba yun? 3 months ba yun? Or 6 months? 120 days na makapagpasya ang pre-trial chamber sa kung ano man na pagdedesisyonan. Ganun din yan sa Pilipinas nga, ang deadline natin ay 90 days. Ang mga judges natin have 90 days to decide on any matter brought before the court. Pero, yun nga, depende din yan dun sa circumstansya, lalo na kung sa confirmation of charges, magkakaroon pa ng second hearing on the confirmation of charges. Pwede din yan Nangyari na yan minsan kasi hindi handa o kaya the accused asked for continuance o parang mag-reset muna tayo kasi we intend to present or we intend to talk about other things. The confirmation of charges is where the arraignment nga, where there is a little bit of determination na parang do we have sufficient proof or evidence to go forward with trial? For us, we think this is just a formality kasi of course we would have sufficient basis for trial. But essentially this is our chance to present comprehensively what are the charges before him. Our partner here would be the office of the prosecutor, but the victims will have a separate voice or representation.
What about po yung mga witnesses po na magsasalita laban po kay former President Rodrigo Duterte? Ready na po ba sila?
Yes, the court is already in custody of several witnesses. Balita namin yan. Bagaman sa amin, hindi namin kilala yung lahat yan. The court has been very circumspect in dealing with the witnesses because they know, and this is what I also would have to warn those in the Philippines, they know the propensity of suspects to, and possibility of supporters assisting or thinking of assisting the suspects by destroying evidence, by tampering with the evidence, and by intimidating witnesses. It is that kind of action is a crime within the court.
Yeah.
Article 70. Kumbaga, kapag parang sa atin, obstruction of justice, di ba? Kapag may sinira kang ebidensya, may tinapat kayo. Kaya, we're very careful with that because we can only safely breathe when a witness has already taken the stand. And the witness is taking the stand. We envision that happening not now, but in the next few years.
Okay.
So we really have to be very careful.
Attorney, I'd like to backtrack a little. You mentioned kasi also yung may mga certain, since we're not a member state, dapat humarap sa court if it could be treated like an extradition. What if the ICC determines na medyong may mali sa proseso sa pag-aresto ni President Duterte dahil hindi natin hinarap sa isang local court? What can happen with this case?
Then, technically, there are protocols under Article 59 which were not followed. Kasi sabi ng, parang yung Pilipinas, ginawa namin, ayon sa proseso namin, yung pag-aresto. Pero, oo yung pag-aresto according to Philippine courts, pero may sinasabi yung Rome Statute na kailangan gawin yung custodial state na ihaharap sa Korte ng Pilipinas.
Okay.
Yun yung na isang tabi. Pero may oportunidad pa ulit na iharap sa Korte, kaya lang in this instance, it will be before the International Criminal Court pre-trial chamber na. Diretso na.
So
Kaya mauulit naman.
Okay. So hindi defined, attorney, na kung local or at this case siguro since ang may jurisdiction na kay President Duterte is yung ICC, so i-determine natin sila ang local court as of the moment.
No, wala na yon. Wala na yon. Kasi, parang na-skip na yon. Parang ganon. Kaya, let me fashion the question na without that opportunity to be presented before a local court of the custodial state. Kasi as soon as hinuli ka, iharap ka dapat sa korte doon sa kung saan ka hinuli. Hindi nangyari yon. Pagdating mo sa ICC, if you have already been surrendered to the ICC, mauulit naman yung proseso.
Okay.
And I would say that this is substantial compliance. Yung hindi nagawa ng local court or hindi na-avail ni Duterte sa local court kung sakasakali man, pwede naman niyang i-avail sa ICC.
Okay.
The ICC will, one, verify his identity, check if the protocols of arrest were followed, and third, ask if there were any rights violations. He will also have the opportunity to file interim bail. So, kung ano dapat yung gagawin sa local court, gagawin naman ulit ng ICC. In this case, diretso sa ICC, ganun din naman.
Okay.
Kaya I would say that there is substantial compliance with the processes.
Si VP Sara po ay on the way na nga po, binabalita natin dyan po sa The Hague, and I think kasunod din po yung kanyang kapatid na si Congressman na Pulong Duterte. I was just want to ask po kung allowed po ba si Duterte to see his family in the detention center? Ano po ba yung mga magiging restrictions for him?
Oh yes, allowed siya ng family. As I understand, family visits could be allowed inside the detention facility up to 10 days. I'm looking at my notes. Up to 10 days daw, sabi nung ICC detention facility. Hindi ito yung tipong dalaw lang talaga. Yung concept nito, international standards again, 10 days. And they should be entitled access to him. As I understand, 24 hours kung lalabas man, tapos kunyari, gabi, tatawagan niya. Hello, gusto kong kausapin si Sara. Pwede niyang gawin yon if Sara is available, of course. But what I would recommend for them is, ito nga, nakalagay, baka pwedeng doon na sila magstay within. It's important that an immediate family member, yung from the nuclear family, is present because they will be considered cleared for entry. Hindi pwedeng tito, tita, kumbaga. Okay. And counsel. Those who are registered before the court will be technically considered his counsel. So, ICC counsel dapat. Kaya lang, I am thinking, and it has happened in other cases, he can also say that he has a different counsel, not accredited with the court, who also provides him with legal assistance.
Assistance.
So,
pero hindi siya pwedeng humarap.
Yes. So, parang Secretary Medialdea. could be allowed. Unfortunately, I think he has no visa lang, kaya hindi siya makababa ng eroplano. But he could also be considered counsel, I would say.
Yeah, binigyan daw po siyang 15 days na visa si Secretary Medjalderia.
Oh, great. Maybe he can present himself as counsel for Duterte so that he can have access immediately.
Yeah.
But Duterte has to secure an ICC-accredited counsel. Yan ang una dapat niyang gawin. And I'm volunteering Harry Roque.
Kaso hindi na po natin alam kung nasaan pa po siya.
Baka alam ni Duterte, di ba?
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras. That was ICC Assistant to Counsel, Attorney Cristina Conti.
Thank you.
Thank you. O nga, si Spoke Sari Roque is a noted human rights and advocate lawyer and accreditation sa ICC. But in the meantime, don't go away. We're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on the One News. Senator Bato de la Rosa breaks his silence, finally following the arrest of his former boss, Rodrigo Duterte. Here's the report.
Senator Bato de la Rosa denies that he's in hiding following former President Duterte's arrest.
Safe to say, hindi kayo nagtatago, sir?
Hindi ako nagtatago.
Nasa Davao kayo, sir?
Bundok ng Surigao at Agusan. Nagkampanya ako.
Ngayon, sir?
Pero okay na, nasa baba na ako.
His office in the Senate was closed and he could not be contacted via phone. De la Rosa explained that he focused on a motion of certiorari that they filed at the Supreme Court. He expressed sympathy for the former president.
Naawa ko sa ating Pangulo. Sobra. Alam mo, mas excited pa or mas interesado pa yung Philippine government na mahuli si President Duterte kaysa ICC at saka sa sabi nilang Interpol.
The senator slammed President Marcos's statement that it's our obligation to help the Interpol. He said he was feeling betrayed.
That's a very flimsy alibi. President ka ng Pilipinas, you can reject outright. Alam mo, gawin mong rason yung Napolcom, yung Interpol na meron tayong commitment. As the President, you can reject outright. Masyado silang atat na atat. At gusto siya, na sila talaga interesado na mahuli. Huwag na nga gawing excuse yung Interpol na yan. Feeling betrayed. Betrayal to the max.
In an earlier post on Facebook, De La Rosa said he's ready to submit to authorities and be with Duterte, but he's thinking of staying at the Senate in the meantime.
Hindi niya muna ako i-surrender hanggat sa kaya niya habang hindi pa kami adjourn. Pwede naman niyang gawin yan.
Nevertheless, De La Rosa vowed to continue on his campaign for re-election in the midterm polls.
Now, Malacanang dismissed Vice President Sara Duterte's claim that former President Rodrigo Duterte's transfer to The Hague was a form of state kidnapping. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Angelo Castro stressed that the arrest was carried out under a legal warrant. VP Sara had questioned her father's extradition, urging Filipinos to oppose handing over a citizen without legal grounds. She also linked the move to political motives ahead of the midterm elections.
Paano po magiging kidnapping kung may warrant of arrest? It was issued by an authority, by the court. Kapag ka po mayroon ng issuance ng anumang order from the court, we have to comply. Especially sa ating po nangyari ay through Interpol. Hindi po pwedeng kapag ka po nagsuserve ang sino mang otoridad, let's say sheriff, atin na lang po itong tatalikuran or ating sasaktan o ating susuntukin. Hindi po pwedeng ganun. Kung anong po ang nandiyan at legal po na masasabi nating order from the court, we should abide. No? We should abide by that. So wala po ako nakikitang kidnapping dahil hindi nga po ito sa pwersahan at lahat po ng elemento na dapat pong gamitin para maging masabing valid yung warrant of arrest at yung paghingi ng assistance ng Interpol ay nandiyan naman po. Kompleto po tayo ng papel.
Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico refuted claims that he owns a private jet used to fly former President Rodrigo Duterte to The Hague. In a statement, his office clarified that the jet plane with tail number RPC5219 does not belong to him. They dismissed social media posts linking him to the aircraft as false information. His camp urged the public to verify details before sharing to prevent the spread of misinformation. Now, Duterte supporters hold a candle lighting event in Davao City. Some of them were emotional over the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. They are calling on the government to bring Duterte back to the country. They also continue to question the ICC's jurisdiction over the Philippines.
Wala naman talaga sa jurisdiction ng ICC ang Pilipinas, no? So bakit pa sila nakikialam dito sa atin na meron namang yung flow ng justices natin dito sa Pilipinas, napakaganda naman.
Meanwhile, families of victims of alleged extrajudicial killings are hopeful that their long fight for justice will continue to make progress. This comes after the arrest of the purported Tokhang mastermind, former President Rodrigo Duterte.
A step closer to justice. Several groups supporting the victims of alleged extrajudicial killings during the Duterte administration attended the mass at Extra Shrine yesterday morning. For them, this marks the beginning of holding former President Rodrigo Duterte accountable for his bloody war on drugs, a campaign that allegedly led to thousands of killings. The arrest and bringing the former president to the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Netherlands, to face charges of crimes against humanity is a huge step forward. They believe that it is now time to hold responsible parties accountable and to finally deliver justice to the victims of extrajudicial killings who have been seeking it for years.
This was a victory na napaka-importanteng unang hakbang para sa mga biktima, sa mga pamilyang naulila.
For Father Robert P. Reyes, a vocal critic of Duterte's war on drugs, this is an opportunity for victims to come forward and for the former president to be held accountable. Although the process of investigating the bloody war on drugs has been slow, he is grateful that there is now progress. He also emphasized the significant contribution of those who have been vocal in opposing the war on drugs during the Duterte administration.
Hindi tumatahimik at hindi naduduro at natatakot ang mga tinatawag na tinig ng konsyensya, tinig ng moralidad.
In a phone interview, I spoke with a family who lost a loved one to the government's Tokhang operations. Years later, they still remember that fateful day clearly. Now, they are hopeful that their long fight for justice is finally making progress.
Kahit pa paano magkakaroon ng justice yung pagkakamatay ng asawa ko tsaka ng iba pang victim. At least, ngayon kahit pa paano nagkakaroon ng linaw.
For the families who lost loved ones, this is the only beginning of a long road to justice. But they remain determined to continue their fight. Mobile journalist Ivan Tarinque, We.Or.One News.
And our quote for this morning, memories of our lives, of our works, and our deeds will continue in others. Rosa Parks. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angelo Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One You.
All sides, all the time.